But thank you for your patience, and we are looking forward to now listening to Anna about regarding her presentation on the role of ad design. So this project, our webinar series actually have started with a concern to help people run advertisements on Facebook. And I think how our advertisements impact our samples is an area that is vastly understudied. So in that regard, this is certainly a very important project. We are just looking forward to, I'm curious about listening to Anna's insights and how their research has resulted in terms of best practices. Anna is a PhD student at GESIS, right? Yeah. And now she will present her research on image characteristics and design formats in social media recruitment. Usually our presentations continue around 35-40 minutes, and then there will be time for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can share them in the Q&A functionality on the page, and then at the end of the presentation, Anna will respond to your questions. Okay, thank you very much, Anna. Now, floor is yours. We are listening to you.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I will present, as already mentioned, on the role of ad design, image characteristics, and design formats in social media recruitment. And that's also part of the topic of my dissertation. And the research is a joint work with my dear colleagues Steffen Pötschke and Bernd Weiß. Many thanks for your support. And Steffen Pötschke presented in this webinar series 3 years ago. If you're interested in his research, you can watch the video. First, I give you some general information about ad images and ad design in online recruitment via social networking sites and why ad images are important. This is followed by the research aim and moves on to the first research project. Here, 3 research questions are answered, dealing with ad performance, sample composition, and image characteristics. And the second research project compares different visual design elements or more concrete static and animated images in terms of sample composition, response quality, and ad performance. And finally, the results are discussed and recommendations are derived. And then I will give you an outlook on future research we are planning. Yeah, social media platforms have become increasingly popular, as you know, because you are here. And yeah, especially when fast and readily available data is needed. And we use it for reaching hard-to-reach groups where traditional sampling frames are unavailable or difficult to access. And we even use it for the recruitment for a new online panel. We recruited into the newly established GESIS panel digital behavioral data sample, which consists of a non-probability part and a probability part. And what motivates me in my research is to get a better understanding of the recruitment method and an approach to the question, what role does ad design play in this process? Yeah, why does ad design matter? The design of an ad is important because it serves as an invitation letter to the survey. And you can see an example of an ad on the right-hand side, and the design is central for attracting attention and creating interest in a survey. An ad consists of multiple elements. First, the ad description, which shortly describes the study or other purpose, and in this case, in Ukrainian language. Second, the link that leads outside of Meta, in this case, to the landing page of the survey. And thirdly, the ad image, which makes up the majority of an ad, and that's the part we are looking at today. A lot of research has already been done in this area, and the list I'm going to show you does not meant to be exhaustive, but to provide an overview. And we can see that previous studies have looked at several dimensions of ad performance. First, how ad images relate to engagement measures such as link clicks or click-through rates. Second, costs, for instance, the cost per unique click. And third, outcomes like the number of completed surveys resulting from an ad. And other studies go beyond performance and looking at sample composition, showing that ad images can influence who actually clicks in terms of gender, age, or education. Additionally, some recent work links ad design to data quality, that is whether respondents recruited via certain ad images provide more consistent or attentive answers. And moreover, a research of Stern et al. Analyzes different visual design elements and compares their ad performance and data quality. And taken together, the existing evidence clearly shows ad images matter. But with every social networking site's recruitment, the question occurs again, what images should we choose for survey recruitment? And that leads to the research aim to provide recommendations on ad image selection for survey recruitment. In my two studies, I address this question by looking at three aspects: the ad performance, sample composition, and response quality. Yeah, now we turn to research project 1, which aims to achieve this by examining a variety of ad images across multiple studies. And the research project is entitled, "Is an Image Worth 1,000 Respondents?" The relationship between ad image, ad performance, and sample composition in social media recruitment. And it is a joint work with my colleagues Steffen Pötschke and Bernd Weiss, and you can access the preprint by scanning this QR code, or of course simply Google it. I'm sure you can find it. And yeah, let's take a closer look at the recruitment and database. We combined data from 5 independent recruitment studies. They are named GEOS, Paris F, USUR, ReUp, and 1UA. And I mention them because I will address them in the results, and I'm sure you can remember all the names. Each of these studies had a different target population and was conducted in a different country, for example, in Germany or in the Ukraine. And all campaigns run on meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and each used 5 to 7 different ad images, but no images were duplicated between the studies. And this gives us a rich database to explore how different ad images relate to recruitment outcomes. Yeah, based on this data set, we are pursuing an exploratory approach. And first, we looked at whether there is a relationship between ad image and recruitment performance. Do some images simply perform better? Second, we asked whether ad images are also linked to who we reach. For example, whether certain images attract more women or younger respondents. And finally, we explored whether we can identify specific image characteristics that are associated with ad performance. In other words, what makes an image effective. Yeah, here are only a few of the 31 images just for you to get an impression. And because the topic today is images, and yeah, probably you want to see them. And yeah, the images show people of different genders and various symbols of flags, and the images convey different moods. And to explore the research questions, we combined multiple data sources. For ad performance, we used metrics directly from Meta Ad Manager, such as the number of unique outbound clicks, the corresponding costs, and we combined it with survey data to get the number of completed valid surveys and the cost per completed valid surveys. And for sample composition, we looked at basic demographic characteristics, in these cases, age and gender, which we obtained from survey responses, and we used only those two because they were available in all 5 data sets. Yeah, and we are now looking at the results of research question 1, whether ad images are related to recruitment performance. And we calculated the proportion of median unique outbound clicks per ad image and applied a cross-skill wallet age test to examine whether these differences are statistically significant. And across all studies, we see clear differences between images showing that ad images are associated with performance. And sorry. And in some studies, such as OSOR, PARI-F General, and PARI-F Syria, a single image accounts for over 40% of all median unique outbound clicks, clearly outperforming the other images. And in other studies, like one UA, PARI-F Iraq, 2 images dominate the clicks, while GEOS and ReUp show more balanced results. And these patterns indicate that some images outperform others consistently in terms of unique outbound clicks, but others, are more balanced. And next, we examine the second performance indicator, the cost per unique outbound click in euro by ad images. And we applied again a cross-skill wallet age test to assess whether they differ significantly. It shows that in most studies, cost per click do not vary significantly between images. Indicating that cost per click do not vary significantly. And while some images attract more clicks, the cost per click is generally stable. In studies as GEOS, OSOR, ReUp, and 1UA, costs generally range between 10 and 15 cents per click. Across all studies, the range extends from under 10 to over 50 euros, as shown in the upper right corner. Overall, these results suggest that although certain images drive more clicks, they do not necessarily incur higher cost per click. Now we turn to the third performance indicator, the proportion of completed valid surveys. Each image displays only valid surveys while they add up to a total of 100% with invalid surveys. We observe that certain images are associated with higher proportions of valid completions, though patterns vary by study. For example, in PARI-F General and PARI-F Iraq, one image results in 100% of valid completions, and in Paris F general, and some images result in 0%. Although this is partly due to low numbers of cases, it helps understand the graph. In ReUp and 1UA, there is minimal variation across images, suggesting that all images perform similarly in terms of valid survey completions. In GEOS and OSUR, the results are more diverse. In GEOS, image 1B on the left achieves around 60% of valid completions, while image 1G on the far right at GEOS reaches only 25%. Overall, these findings indicate that image choice can affect not only engagement, but also the likelihood that respondents complete surveys validly. Finally, we examine the fourth performance indicator, the cost per completed and completed valid surveys. We see some variation in costs depending on the study. In the studies GEOS, Paris F, Syria, certain images are a little more expensive. In contrast, ReUp, OSUR, and 1UA show small cost differences between the images. And these results indicate that image choice slightly affects the cost per completed valid survey. We examined how ad images affect ad performance. And now we move to the second research questions. Are ad images related to sample composition? And first, are women and men attracted to different images? The figure illustrates the gender-specific differences in completed valid surveys across studies, and the gap between the curves reflects the gender disparity for each image. Looking across studies, we see that gendered responses vary considerably by image. In some studies, men and women respond similarly to certain images, while for others, the proportions of male and female respondents differ noticeably. For example, GEOS shows mostly balanced responses, with only a few images being favored by one gender, if you can say it that way. In contrast, studies like Paris F, Syria, and 1UA consistently show higher proportions of men across ad images. And other studies, such as Paris F Iraq and ReUp, are mixed. And some images show a higher proportion of male respondents and other small female. Overall, these patterns highlight that the choice of image can influence the gender composition of respondents. Yeah, but the effects seem to be context dependent. Now we turn to the age composition of respondents, and the figure illustrates that age distributions, vary noticeably across images in all studies. True differences are less pronounced in Paris F general and Paris F Syria. In studies like GEOS, there are substantial differences. For example, the average age differs by almost 20 years between certain images. And in ReUp, Age also varies across images, with some showing narrower ranges and others broader ranges. Yeah, and as you see, some images display many outliners. And overall, these patterns highlight that image choice can influence the age composition, similar as we saw for gender. And yeah, this reinforces the idea that when designing ads for survey recruitment, both gender and age can be affected by the images chosen. Yeah. We saw that some ad images perform better and attract different groups. But, sorry. But what makes these images different? We examined whether specific image characteristics are associated with ad performance. And to do this, all 31 ad images were manually coded based on 3 dimensions. First, whether people or a group of people are in the focus of the image, yes or no. Second, whether national or supranational symbols are present in 3 categories ranging from no reference, weak reference, and strong reference. And thirdly, 3 categories for the general mood conveyed by the image, coded as positive, neutral, and negative or melancholic. And these coded characteristics were then used in a series of logistic regression models predicting key performance indicators, which I'll show on the next slide. We examined whether these image characteristics are linked to ad performance using logistic regression models, and we tested the association between people's mood, national symbols, and 4 key performance indicators. We already know unique outbound clicks, cost per click, completed valid survey, and cost per survey. And to address skewed distributions, performance measures were log transformed. The results show some clear patterns. Ads featuring people or those conveying a positive mood tend to attract fewer clicks and completions. In contrast, images with negative or melancholic tone are associated with higher engagement. And similarly, I have to work on that. Strong national symbols appear to increase the number of clicks and completed surveys. However, none of these image characteristics seem to influence cost-related indicators, such as cost per click or cost per survey. Overall, this suggests that certain image features can shape ad performance, but not necessarily efficacy. Let's briefly summarize the main findings from Research Project 1. First, regarding performance, we found that some ad images consistently lead to higher engagement and more valid completions, but these effects don't necessarily translate to better cost efficacy. Second, when looking at sample composition, the images used in recruitment can shape who decides to participate, influencing both age and gender. And finally, our analysis of image characteristics suggests that images with a negative or melancholic tone and strong national symbols are linked to higher engagement, while images featuring people or positive moods tend to perform less well. Taken together, these results emphasize that image choice truly matters, but its effect can differ across performance, composition, and image characteristics. Now we come to my second and current research project. Here I'm moving away from the pure observation of static images and towards various visual design elements. The study, static or animated, how ad design shapes survey recruitment, is still work in progress, and the results I'm presenting are preliminary, but hopefully it will be published next year. In this project, I shift the focus from what is shown in an ad image to how it is presented. Specifically, we compared two common visual ad designs used in social media recruitment, static and animated images. And the goal is to understand whether the different visual elements influence who participates, how attentively they respond, and how well the ads perform overall. Accordingly, we address three research questions, or not we, I. I address three research questions. First, how are different visual elements, static or animated images, related to sample composition? Second, how are they related to response quality? And third, how do they affect app performance? Together, this question aims to uncover whether animation provides any real advantage over static designs in the recruitment context. In the second research project, I used data of the recruitment into the new online panel, the GESIS panel digital behavioral data sample. The panel combines survey data with digital behavioral data like web tracking and app data. And if you are interested in this data, I'm happy to help. The target population was adult people in Germany. Recruitment took place in 2023 on Facebook and Instagram. And we tried animated and static images across 4 target groups. And I have outlined the campaign structure here on the right-hand side. There were 4 groups divided by age and gender, and each target group had both animated and static images. Let's take a look at these visual elements, the static and animated ones. There are 4 static images and the same images with simple motion effects. Here's one example. I will show the others in a minute. And the text in the image addresses 3 different motivations for participating in surveys, and they are to help society to be rewarded for participation, and to support science. And here we see the remaining 3 animated and static images. And the animations are easy to implement by scientists with limited time and financial resources, and when there are no graphic designers. For the second study, we built on the same analytical dimensions as before. Sample composition and performance, and additionally analyze response quality. And the first dimension again includes gender and age, but this time we also take a closer look at education, as it's another key factor for evaluating sample composition. And education is divided in 3 categories, low, middle, and high. And to examine response quality, we consider 3 common indicators: item non-response, extreme response times, and survey break-offs. Item non-response refers to cases in which respondents view a question but did not provide an answer. Extreme response time combines the share of respondents falling into the fastest and slowest 10% quantiles of completion times. And break-off rates measure whether respondents terminate their participation before the end of the survey. And these indicators are intended to provide information on whether other visual elements are detrimental to response quality. And finally, performance is measured using the already known same performance indicators. Yeah, now we turn to the first research question, whether static and animated ads attract different kind of respondents. Knowing who we reach is important in survey recruitment, and each image type displays only valid surveys, and for each image types, the proportions sum up to 100%. And we see that animated ads attract a slightly higher proportion of male participants, while static ads tend to appeal more to female respondents. And a chi-square test confirms that these differences are statistically significant. And this finding suggests that even the format of an ad image, not just its content, can subtly influence who decides to participate in the survey. The second analysis looks at differences in education levels between respondents recruited with static and animated ad images. As with gender, the proportions within each image type sum up to 100%. And we see that animated ads attract slightly more respondents with low and middle levels of education, whereas static ads reach higher share of highly educated respondents. And a chi-square test indicates that these differences are statistically significant. The third analysis examines age differences between static and animated ad images. The density plots show distinct distribution. Static ads tend to attract younger respondents around the age of 25, whereas animated ads are associated with older respondents around 60 years. And for both image types, participation drops around mid-adulthood. And a Wilcoxon rank sum test confirms that these age distributions differ significantly. And this highlights potential age difference by visual elements. Let's now turn to response quality indicators. We looked at three aspects: item on response, extreme response times, and break-offs. And first, item non-response is very low across both ad types, with no meaningful differences, which is good news for the survey, but not so good in finding differences. And second, extreme response times were identified based on respondents in the fastest and slowest 10% quantiles of the overall response time distribution. And animated ad images are associated with slightly fewer cases in these extreme ranges, around 17% compared to 22% for static ads, suggesting that somewhat more consistent response behavior. And finally, break-off rates are higher for animated ad images, indicating that respondents recruited through static ads were more likely to complete the questionnaire. In short, the response quality picture is mixed, and static ads show more extreme response time behavior, while animated ads have higher dropout rates. or not they have, but yeah, you know what I mean. Researchers should therefore weight potential trade-off between response consistency and completion likelihood when choosing ad formats. And yeah, finally, we turn to ad performance, which is an essential aspect when evaluating recruitment strategies. The performance of static versus animated images provide insight into which type of ad is more efficient. And we analyze for key indicators, the unique outbound clicks, the cost per click, the completed valid survey, and the cost per completed valid survey. And together, these metrics show both behavioral engagement and cost efficiency aspects, which are particularly relevant for researchers working with limited budgets. Let's take a closer look at each performance indicator. First, we examine the mean number of unique outbound clicks. Animated ad images clearly outperform static ones, showing significantly higher average click numbers. And the Wilcoxon rank summary test confirms that this difference is statistically significant. And next, we look at the cost per unique outbound click. And here the picture is slightly reversed. Static ad images are slightly more cost effective than animated ones. Although animated ads generate more clicks, these clicks come at a higher price. And the Wilcoxon test shows a highly significant difference, highlighting that from a budget perspective, static ads achieve better cost per click. Examining the completed valid surveys, we observed that both static and animated ads yield a very high proportion of completed valid surveys. The chi-square test indicates no significant difference between the two groups. In other words, once respondents have started the survey, the proportion who successfully completed does not seem to depend on the visual design. Finally, we can compare the average cost per completed valid survey. Static ad images again show a clear advantage, yielding lower cost per valid response than animated ones, and the Wilcoxon rank summary test confirms a significant difference. And taken together, this pattern suggests that while animated ads generate more engagement, static ads perform better in terms of cost efficiency, making them the more economical choice for researchers. In summary, the design format of an ad image clearly matters. Even beyond its content, it shapes who takes part in terms of gender, age, and education. When it comes to response quality, we see a mixed picture, a trade-off. Static formats tend to produce more extreme response times, while animated ones lead to higher dropout rates. And finally, from a performance perspective, animated ads are better at generating engagement, but static ones are more cost efficient, which can be a decisive factor for researchers. Let's draw conclusions from both research projects. Bringing both research projects together, we can clearly see that image choice matters in content and in design format. Ad image don't just influence how many people click or how much the campaign cost. They also affect who participates and how they respond. Take together, these findings show that visual design can meaningfully shape the sample and the performance and the response quality of online recruitment. Recommendations that can be derived from the results of Research Project 1 are first, when evaluating ad performance, it's important to consider multiple indicators like clicks, completed surveys, costs, and sample composition rather than relying on single metrics. Second, regarding content, use national symbols when the study topic relates to a specific country or nation. And finally, consider the emotional tone because melancholic or sad images may work well, maybe in case of sensitive topics, while more positive images might work better in other contexts, but not in our cases. A recommendation from Research Project 2 is to combine static and animated images, depending on your priority of the study, because static images tend to attract women and highly educated participants, while animated images appeal more to men with lower or middle, or not with, or and those with lower and middle education level and older respondents. Yeah, looking ahead, my next project explores the potential of AI in helping exploring visual ad aspects, and maybe we can identify if AI can even help us with the ad design. And with that, thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to hear some questions on my work.
Thank you very much. Amazing presentation, a lot of work. Thank you very much for all the research you have done, and thank you very much for sharing it with us. So everyone, if you have any questions for Anna, you can just share them through Q&A functionality that you see on the top of the screen. In the meantime, I will start with my own questions. Thank you, great work. I think this is maybe more like a clarification question. Now, when you, especially in the first study, when you show us data about link clicks that you have received, is that somehow includes the budget assigned for that ad? Especially the reason I'm asking that is because, you know, like if you put multiple ads under the same ad set, then Facebook will assign higher budgets to ads that it will pick in the initial phase. So let's say in the initial phase, one of the ads will be like 3% more successful, but then Facebook will decide to shift resources to that one, and then maybe half of the budget for the entire ad set budget will just go to that particular ad, and of course links will just be inflated. So in that regard, is that budget spending is controlled in some way or not?
We had a fixed budget for each ad set, for the overall campaign, and then for each ad set. But within or each ad set had these 5 to 7 different ads with different images, and of course they compete with each other. And yeah, the algorithm can influence in this ad set, because we don't have a fixed budget for each ad image. But that's a part of the research question, because what is successful, because we have this AI in the background.
Yeah,
And
no, I mean, I think fair enough. But I think like looking at and I wonder whether you agree or not, looking at the first study especially, what we see is that once you take the cost into account, the differences are very small, which is mind blowing because it also means that, like maybe ad images do not matter that much. If at the end of the day, in terms of the cost, it doesn't make much difference, then it means that even if you choose the ad that performs not as good in terms of link clicks, if cost-wise they are same, it means that you just need to, you will arrive at the same point, right? So I don't know. So that was my one of my takeaways actually. That if there is not huge differences in terms of cost, maybe we shouldn't worry too much about that images. Would you agree?
it depends if costs are what you are most interested in. Because we are mostly looking at who we reach. We don't want to reach only, I don't know, middle-aged male respondents for our surveys. Um, and we want not only clicks, but people who complete the surveys validly. And yeah, if we reach them through other ads, then we would, yeah, more, probably use them more often.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Okay, I have one more question. Just taking the liberty here. So it is very important that you study in the second study with animated animations. Do you think that would apply to videos, right? Like Facebook is right now just pushing us to use videos, telling that, okay, videos work well. And it has, I mean, of course, I guess this is maybe a future agenda, future research agenda for you because you mentioned AI. But I always wondered whether I should just put extra effort to create a video rather than just a single image and whether that would make any difference. So would you say that what you show regarding animations would apply to videos as well?
I'm not sure if it's the same for videos, but if you do the research, let me know because I'm very interested in it. um, yeah, I think it will come to us in the future because, Instagram and Facebook are not the social media platforms often used, maybe more TikTok or something. And in this platform, videos are more important than static ads. Um, I think that the research shows that it makes a difference what you use for an ad, or even if it's static or that's slightly animation. Um, so I guess that video ads would make a difference.
Interesting. I mean, I guess also it is what matters, like if you could offer an explanation of why animated videos result differently than static videos, that would be interesting in the paper. I guess it is not easy to come up with that kind of a theory, but I guess that would be interesting to show, to discuss. Okay, so there is one question I would like to ask you, and I will read it because people who watch this video later will not otherwise see questions. Okay, so Victor asks us, what's the percentage of abandoned samples in the mentioned at the beginning of survey, and how to persuade people to stay till the end?
Can you say it again?
Okay, so there are you can see the question on the Q&A
Mm,
function as
okay.
well. There are actually two separate questions, I would say. One is what is the percentage of people who quit the survey earlier rather than finishing? What's the percentage of abandoned samples, Victor says. And secondly, how to persuade people to stay till the end. So of course, this may go a bit beyond your research as well, in this project, but if you have any insights that you could share, that would be lovely to hear.
Hmm. I think that this group of respondents recruited via social networking sites are, a special group where people, click on a survey because they are a little interested in, and then they just break off the survey. So I think it's a special group, but I'm not an expert in keeping people in a survey. If it's a part of the ad that keeps them into the survey, or keeps them in finishing the survey. But I would think that it's more difficult with people recruited via social networking sites to keep them in the survey.
Fair, fair enough.
Can I maybe jump in here? Because I actually had a question about this as well. Your number were really high, right? I mean, you had, based on the second study you showed us, kind of 79%, quit the survey and didn't complete it. And that made me also wonder what your other settings were when you ran the ads. So did you use like a conversion campaign, using pixels? Or, because I think in our surveys, we don't see those dropouts. So maybe one response to Victoria then is, like use conversion. Because what then happens is that the algorithm helps to find respondents that actually complete the survey rather than just start it. At least that's what we always find. Yeah. So yeah. So then my question is, did you use pixels to help, identify, kind of completed surveys, or what did you do?
No, we never use the metapixel thing because of we have data quality. Obligation.
What are your concern? Because I mean, we like if we have this like in terms of samples and so on, we don't see a difference. I mean, we have a whole paper on this in case anyone is interested. But yeah, we actually find that on all dimensions, that conversion actually outperforms in terms of quality, sample characteristics, and completion naturally, because that's what it ultimately is. Yeah.
I think
What,
maybe it is just conducting surveys in Europe, and that's the difference. European Union, like maybe is that the case, Anna? Like GDPR and worries about data se
Our
security issues.
our argument in not using metapixel is because we are afraid that it gives Meta more information about the people that they would have without us. Like, we don't want to give Meta maybe sensitive informations about our participants, or like what group of people gives or yeah
but I don't think Pixel give more information. I mean, it's not that they have access to the survey. They only know like the information that they have about a respondent, and it feeds back that that particular user is good at completing the task that I'm setting. So it's, I mean, online shops use this all the time because, then the algorithm is better at spotting users that are more likely to actually complete the task. So I mean, our pixel is on a different page. It's not linked at all to our Qualtrics survey. So you don't feed back information to Facebook as such. But it does help with completion, because 70% dropouts is really high. I don't remember what our dropouts rate were, but probably more like 40%, 30, 40%. But we just kind of know. I mean, that's not that unusual
Yeah.
for an online survey. Yeah. But yeah.
There's a question. Let me just move to that one.
Yeah.
From Tolga. So Tolga says, again, I'm reading the question, but Anna, you can see it also on Q&A functionality. I know the research mostly addresses the performance part of the data recruitment, but I have this question on the quality of the response. Meaning, for instance, did you have any attention check or any other indicator test to see the quality of responses? We may have increased number of completed surveys, but it may not always lead to a better quality of response.
Is this question on research project 1, or because in research project 2 I'm looking at data quality aspects? No, we don't use attention checks, but we use the quality indicators, not survey based, like break off or item non-response or response time.
Maybe extreme responses that you showed is relevant here. Yes. And you did find a varying effect on response quality, right, or no?
Yeah. The item non-response is very low once they started or really started the survey, but we found differences in break-off rates and extreme response times, like slowing or speeding.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes,
I have
Anya.
one more question. So for me, the most fascinating results that you showed at in both studies were the demographic differences. I mean, they're just huge, right? So, and I agree with you that your recommendation to say, mixing different, images or, features, whether static or animated, is definitely a good idea to kind of counter this. So I think that's a really important kind of takeaway. That it really can like screw our samples depending on what images we use, which kind of it makes sense in a way, but it's good to really have some empirical evidence on this. But I would encourage you to still maybe look at the education categories. You might not have it in all data sets. I understand that you were kind of interested, but a lot of your descriptive results in the first part of the presentation and paper, doesn't necessarily, I mean, I understand that you might not be able to do it, you're not doing the demographics in the second part anyway, right? When you're coding it, because it would kind of probably, we might lose too many cases, but I would still include education because I think when it comes, so we did a lot of comparison between sample like kind of characteristics of our, recruited samples. And when it came to age and gender, it was precisely the categories that were closest to the population means. So whatever we did, kind of in terms of settings and ad image, we did pretty good in kind of approaching population, like numbers, but where it really is completely off is usually education. And that applies to all online surveys, right? All convenience surveys, also the commercial ones. And so I think it would be really helpful to really zoom in more on education, also in the first paper, wherever you have that information. Yeah.
Just, relatedly, so you find national symbols as very effective, and we found the same result as well in our own study. But we also found that national symbols, or using that kind of themes, like what we called it, just creates huge impact on political qualities of the survey as well. So again, just as Anya have suggested, I understand that you have different questions across surveys, but still, I think it would be a good idea if you could look at any political questions to see how national symbols shape responses to those in the composition, sample composition. If you could,
Thank
of
you.
course.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we had things like political interest, and then also polarization, so more kind of stronger partisans. Yeah. So sometimes that's wanted. So, we try to recruit Vox voters in Spain, and there it was, very helpful to use, national flags, absolutely. But sometimes you don't want that, right? So, use the data, use the richness of the data you have, and look at these subgroup differences, because I think that's also really important apart from all the ad performance and so on. I think these compositional differences really matter. Yeah.
Okay, we have gone beyond our time. Thank you very much, Anna, for joining us. Again, apologies for the confusion. It has been a bit stressful in the beginning, but I think we have had a hopefully very fruitful session for you as well. We certainly learned a lot from your presentation. I'm looking forward to seeing this in print, and I think that it will help many researchers designing their own advertisements. Thank you very much again for sharing your research with us. And for all the participants, thank you very much for joining us. Next week, we will continue with another session. Again, we will be on Microsoft Teams.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.